back in session in just a few seconds.
Okay.
Virtual commissioners, please be returning to your terminals. Thank you.
All these people.
Anyway, my grandmother gave me a game where Poindexter was Ken's friend in the game. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Oh dear.
Madge or Midge, was it Midge or Madge? Midge.
Okay, thank you very much.
Madge came along
We
later,
are coming
yeah.
back in session at 11:57. Sorry for the delay. We move to item 8, which I purposely kept flexible on how we were going to approach. I believe the best thing to do, given that I am assuming commissioners are going to want to react to what they heard in the extensive public comment, which was extremely valuable and is greatly appreciated, that commissioners will want to discuss some of that. But given the lateness of the hour, I would beg your indulgence and let me ask for public comment on agenda item 8 with the same reference we have made before. It would be most useful to the commission to have new comments. By my count, we had well over 100 speakers talking about items, and I think we could expedite that. Before I move to that, Commissioner Hanson.
Well, I wanted to comment on the statements
You're muted.
that we heard today. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, hold on. You're not, it's not you, it's in the room here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just want to comment on what we just heard. Is it too soon to say that?
Yes, Commissioner, because I'd like to try to do public comment first, but I'm
Okay.
happy to make sure you're at the front of the list when we get to commissioners, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Thank you. David, would you please see if there are any requests from the public to offer new comments under agenda item 8? Thank you.
Thank you. Any member of the public who would like to address the commission under agenda item 8, you're welcome to do so. Please raise a virtual hand by pressing the raise hand button on Zoom or by pressing *9 if you're dialing in by phone. Begin with 5355 followed by 4541. You have 1 minute to address the commission. Press *6 to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Am I commenting on item 7.4 or item 8? I'm sorry.
We're on to item 8. We would welcome your comments.
Oh, I have no comment on that. I thought I was commenting on item 7.4.
Okay.
Can you
Thank
keep
you.
me? Are you guys gonna talk about it again, or?
No, the public comment on item 7 has been closed. If you want to comment, go ahead and comment now.
On item
On item
7.4, what I so uphold what I heard about Chaldeans being Islamophobic. I'm a real estate agent. I've sold a lot of houses to Muslims in our community. I play in the Chaldean basketball league that we allow a lot of Muslims to play with us. I so uphold on being called that. Please do not consider those comments legit. Please. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 4541 followed by 6868. Four, 541. Are you there? We should be able to hear you. I don't show you as being muted. You have 1 minute to address the commission. All right, I'll go on to 6868, followed by Keith Ashaki. Press.
Yes, hello. My name is
Yes.
Father Simon Istaki, and I'm a Chaldean Catholic priest. I just found out how to raise my hand, so I wanted to briefly comment on the previous agenda item. I just wanted to say that I am a Chaldean Catholic priest. I was born and raised here in El Cajon, and I serve at St. Michael Chaldean Catholic Church. And on behalf of our Bishop Emmanuel Shalita and all of the priests and the clergy, my message is that we are very disappointed to hear of the proposed plan to take El Cajon out of East County, and we sincerely hope and beg that you change it to keep El Cajon in East County. Many of our people have been blessed to establish themselves in this community, but we are a minority full of refugees who have been persecuted throughout most of our history, and we need to stay together. We hope that we are not split so that we can continue to work together to
Thank
help
you.
the community and to do the best for our people and
Thank
our
you.
county. Thank you very much.
Keith Ishaki, you have 1 minute to address the commission.
Thank you so much again, commissioners, for your service. I wanted to thank Mr. Muhammad Tama from the bottom of my heart. Again, I say I'm an ordained deacon as a volunteer, work with East County Transitional Living Center to serve the homeless. I have picked Black homeless people in my own car and taken them to the East County Transitional Living Center. We love Muslims, Blacks, Arab Muslims. We were all one community in Iraq. I grew up in Iraq. All of my dad's friends were Muslims, both Shiite and Sunnis. Please don't make this as Chaldean against Black. We love the Blacks. We are a minority ourselves. This is not Chaldean versus Black or Chaldean versus Muslim. We are all one community. We love everyone. God bless you all. Thank you all for your service.
Thank you. Not seeing any further virtual hands. That concludes public testimony on this item, Chair Bame.
Thank you very much, David. All right, commissioners, first and foremost, I'm sure you share my interest in what we heard. And I wanted to give, before we got into any kind of motions, I did want to offer a chance for reaction exactly along the lines of what Commissioner Hanson was asking about just now. So I'm going to start taking a list for that. I think this will be in the form of an initial round rather than a discussion because I want to see where we go. But if commissioners have ideas or if they want to hear additional information under this agenda item, please advise. So take Commissioner Hanson, Commissioner Pons, Co-Vice Chair Katarina, Commissioner Inman.
Okay, I'll
Commissioner
go
Hanson.
first. You know, just a few days ago on December 2nd, we presented a map that has generated a ton of response. And it's beyond my comprehension how we could ignore all that response just because it's too late or we're too busy or we can't meet over the weekend or whatever reason we come up with. If we listen to the citizens, more than 200 sent in comments online or emails or whatever. And then we had over 100 tonight giving us their opinion, and there was absolutely no support for the map that we presented other than from North County where the changes were minor. There was no support from El Cajon, no support from the BIPOC community, no support from Claremont or any of the other communities that were affected by the changes that we had made. I can't believe that we would invite comments and then dismiss them out of hand because it was just too late for us to do anything about it. We have a week left, we have a weekend ahead of us, and we must address these issues that have been brought up. We have no support in South County, in East County, in Central San Diego for the decision that we made. We just don't. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pons.
Yes, thank you. I do appreciate the comments made by the public and the inputs and the emotion and enthusiasm and energy that they put behind those comments. So for me, my takeaway is that we should discuss reconsidering Commissioner Russ's and Commissioner Garcia's proposals and recommendations for modifications to 13A version 11, and also consider adding additional adjustments to them and possibly meet at a later date to advance agenda item number 8. Because I think we should at least take the time to take in all that we've heard tonight. That notwithstanding, we cannot ignore the more than 1,500 comments that occurred before tonight. And some contradicted the comments that were made tonight. So last in is not the most important or the most significant, but they should be equally weighted. And I think if we do this, the proposals that I'm making, we will give due consideration to all of the comments in total, the nearly 3,000 plus. Thank you.
Commissioner Pons, before I move on, let me just ask, do you have a specific concept on, if I heard you right, it was you'd want to reconsider whether to get some alternative options as we were discussing earlier. I presume that would include both the proposal from Commissioner Russ and the proposal from Co-Vice Chair Garcia, or correct, both of those?
That is correct.
And-
In addition to
and then
any
of-
other.
And of course, any others, right? And
That's
what
exactly
would
right.
be, what would be your timeframe?
Well, we table it, we get the inputs tonight and we table the next meeting, which will accommodate agenda items 8 and 9, I guess it would be, until the next meeting. And I think that would occur no earlier than Saturday.
That's all I wanted. Thank you. Yes, I wanted to have that sketched out from your point of view. All right. Wow. Co-Vice Chair Katarina, I'm gonna continue in this direction for a little while and check on some other details. Co-Vice Chair Katarina, Commissioner Inman, Commissioner Serbin, Commissioner Kugliak, Commissioner Diaz, Commissioner Brown. Co-Vice Chair Katarina, please.
Hi, can you hear me okay? Great. Okay, so we've heard a lot of comment tonight, and I think it would behoove us to talk about it and to have some discussions about these issues. Now, we may not end up changing anything because we are constrained. The reason that people are complaining is because COIs are being split. We were not able to keep all these COIs together, and that is unfortunate. I think if there is a way to do it, we should try. We should at least investigate it. We owe these people at least that effort. We may get to the end of the exercise and be in the same place we're at today with the map that people are not 100% happy with, and that we did our best to address the concerns of the community, the entire community, entire compendium of comments. So I agree with Commissioner Pons. I was not in favor of moving forward previously, but I am in favor of moving forward with a discussion now. And I would support Commissioner Pons' proposal, although I may not be able to attend on Saturday, but depend on the time.
Thank you
That
for
is
that.
it.
Thank you. Commissioner Inman.
Yes, thank you again. I too appreciate all the comment, testimony, strong opinions in the room. I am concerned about potentially going back and reconsidering decisions that we have made. It starts to move you in a circular process where we will end up repeating changes that were considered before that then others will obviously make comment about and will be just as unfavorably viewed as the changes that we have made. So that is my main concern. I would say my opinion would be we need to move forward with the current map as is. It's been fully vetted and considered. Absent that, I would go back to map 13A because that one as well was fully vetted, although it did have issues that we tried to address and move beyond. So I know that that's unpopular as well. Obviously, we know what those factors and those things are with that map. But we will end up in a circular process then, because we go back, we make changes, it's unpopular, we go back, we make changes. This process has a deadline. It has a deadline for a reason. You know, you have to make decisions and you have to follow the path that that gets you to a solution. It's not always pretty, and it's not easy, and not all are going to be satisfied. If we try to address El Cajon and move it to East County, you have to accommodate that. And the ways you accommodate that are going to alienate other groups. There's just no two ways about it. I mean, it will. If we try to bring back in the areas of Spring Valley and Rancho San Diego in this process, again, you have to accommodate that. These are very complex moves. And I appreciate Commissioner Pond's wanting to reconsider some of these things and then reconvene on Saturday. That gives Flo very little time to do the required work, to come back with the information that we need, and make sure that we haven't missed something. I mean, we've come back with these maps and we've seen what happens. Our deviations are off. Numbers don't work out. We get CVAP numbers that go against what we wanted. I mean, it's an unknown. It's really an unknown. And I think the likelihood that we actually improve things, in my opinion, is very low. It's unfortunate, but you know, we've been at this for a long time and we've been transparent, we've been methodical, we've been process driven. I can be proud of the process that got us here. I can stand on the map that we're currently looking at. Unfortunately, you know, we are at the end of the road and it's a hard decision, but I think the decision is, you know, we have the work that we've created and I am satisfied with it at this point. So thank you.
Thank you. The current list, Commissioners Serban, Krugliak, Diaz, Brown, Co-Vice Chair Garcia. Very good. Continuing, Commissioner Serban.
Thank you, Chair Beam, and thank you for those well-considered thoughts, Commissioner Inman. I think, you know, for the most part, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think we, as much as, you know, I love to hear public comment. I'm so happy that we got so much of the community to organize and let us know and exercise their voice tonight. I stand with some, you know, like you said, I mean, I think we enacted a process. We considered so many alternatives. We considered how to do many of the things that the community has asked us to do tonight already. So we had already asked ourselves, okay, how can we keep the communities of Skyline, Rancho San Diego, Encanto, Spring Valley, Paradise Hills together and in the Central District? We tried to do that, but we weren't able to. You know, we tried to unify the AAPI community of Linda Vista with Mira Mesa and Penasquitas. I wanted to really do that. And unfortunately, we just, after deliberating and considering and really having some intention with our discussions, we weren't able to arrive at a map that works, given the criteria that we have to follow. You know, I think that if we're going to do something other than move forward with tonight's map, then any alternative course of action should begin with determining what we want to accomplish with any other new map and whether we can even do that. Because if it's something that we want to accomplish that we've already talked about and thought about and realize like, oh, we actually can't do that, then there's really no need to, as you said, continue talking in circles. So unfortunately, I think this map, there may be some minor changes that we can make, but in some ways I just kind of feel like I'm not sure practically if we can make any more progress towards producing a better product. As much as I'd love to do that, and I'm absolutely committed to doing it if there's a path that I can see that gets us there. So with that, I I'll yield the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Krugliak.
I agree with everybody. I want to first say thank you for all of the comments. I empathize with a lot of the comments I heard tonight. And I think I'm grateful that the majority of comments were very constructive. I'm disappointed when I hear comments attacking each other. I wish we could all focus on our county as a whole rather than taking more of a myopic vision. For one example, if Carlsbad didn't push the North County population over, I don't think there would be such a push to push it out. I don't think there's fundamentally an issue with the concept of Carlsbad and North County. I think there's a prioritization of who is in North County, but going after the fact and saying, you know, Carlsbad shouldn't even be part of it, there's just no benefit to it. And there is a lot of that. I agree with Commissioner Hanson that I think there was one group that was happy with our map. And I think the rest of the groups were not. I will say though, if, like I said earlier, if we want to move forward and make changes to the map, North County has to be on the table, because it does not work to hold one district firm and then try to want to make changes to the rest of the map. We've seen it over and over and over and over again. We can't force one part of this map and say that we want to make important changes to the rest of it and expect it to work. It's a zero-sum game, and it doesn't help us to constrain ourselves. If we are not willing to do that, I don't see us getting to a better solution than we are at today, and I don't know that it's worth the effort. I would like to do it, but I don't know that there's a point. I also don't know that we can make even small changes to North County if that was the only thing we wanted to do. It's already overpopulated. Even adding small numbers will make it more overpopulated. And I think everyone's very clear that that's where the population is going to grow over the next 10 years. It would not be responsible or prudent for the next commission to continue to add more and more small populations into an already overpopulated district. So I think we should really think critically about how and whether we want to move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Diaz.
Thank you. I grew up most of my life in Southeast San Diego. So I had to try very hard to separate out my emotions from this whole decision-making process, mainly because I know that this map that we're talking about was a product of months and months of careful deliberation and trying to meet the needs of the community and trying to meet what we were hearing from the public. And I truly thank everyone who stayed up tonight, called in on the phone. And yeah, I know you're working full-time with families. I have a full-time job. You know, I know how hard it is to be engaged. And so I don't know if there's any possibility to bring back, for example, because on Friday, I did mention, if you recall, the commissioners, I did bring up the fact that there is a strong history of coalition voting in Paradise Hill, Skyline community, and inclusive of Spring Valley, even though I did not mention that. But I realized that that was taken out, but in order to move this map forward, I felt that I needed to move forward into a compromise. But after hearing the testimony today, I want to kind of address one of the comments that was made by a member of the public that mentioned about population deviation, because part of the reason why we moved some of these communities around, and partially reason why District 4 looks the way it is right now is because we're trying to balance population. So I really want to put for the record the process that how we came to this point. And going over 10%, I thought, is not the ideal that we're trying to achieve here. So with all due respect to the members of the public, thank you so much for your testimony. But I, as a commissioner, I have to make a decision. So, and I have to weigh everything carefully. So
You accidentally muted yourself, Commissioner Diaz. We heard you have to weigh a decision. Please continue.
sorry. Yes, so I have to come to a decision, but I don't know if I fully answered your question, Chair Beam, if there could be any changes or entertain changes to this map right now. But that's where I stand right now.
Let me just clarify. You'd like to entertain changes if possible. Is that a fair characterization?
Taking into consideration what Commissioners Inman, Krugliak, and Serban have said, I really understand their point of view and their position, and I share that position. But if there's a minor change that we can make that won't throw off the population and get it over 10%, then I would entertain that. But it would not include a large municipality like El Cajon, for example. We cannot go down that road again.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Commissioner Brown, then Co-Vice Chair Garcia, and then I'm likely to ask council because I think there've been a couple of comments that would be worth hearing from. Okay, we'll go with commissioners a little longer. Commissioner Brown, Co-Vice Chair Garcia, Commissioner Dostal, Commissioner Chen. Commissioner Brown, please.
Okay. I'm for trying to make whatever changes we can make that will work for the people that have spoken to us over the last several months. We haven't just heard this tonight. There were several, it's getting more and more people every week. And they're saying the same thing to us. And they've wanted El Cajon in the East County for months now. So we had a map that we were working with, and it changed significantly on December 3rd, I think it was 2nd or 3rd. So I think we owe it to them to spend a little bit more time. We have some changes that can be made. Commissioner Russ and Co-Chair Garcia offered those changes. I'd say if at the very least, we should take a look at those and see if they work, because they do make some of the changes that are being requested this evening and in the last month or so from the public. So if they work, then we have an alternative instead of, you know, I'd say push at the finish line. Don't give up at the finish line. So my question too is, like Lydia was wondering, is there any kind of a time requirement? I don't think we've gotten that answered yet, as far as when do we have to have the final map posted for the public? Can we just make our decision on the last day and then file it and that's it? Or do we have an obligation to have that posted for so many days? Anyhow, I'm for getting here on Saturday and trying to get through things as quickly as we can, but take a look at some other alternatives. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I really do want to continue taking commissioner comments. I can tell you that the preliminary word, I think earlier today or may have been last week, was any changes to maps by a typical standard, although we're not under a legal obligation, would be to have them posted for 3 days. Now, that said, I think it's fair to say we've got a very attentive public. And if it's a choice between 3 days or having something posted that might be considered and discussed, I'm confident they would understand if we needed more time to get the map put together and still have it posted for discussion. we can explore that. Okay, Co-Vice Chair Garcia.
Just really quickly, I respect what Commissioner Inman had to say and others, Commissioner Servin, about we have a map, we should just move forward. But it is a little, for me, a little bit problematic that we took all this testimony today, and it would just seem to me like we would be just completely ignoring them. And what I've heard a couple of commissioners say is, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Do we have a better option? I don't know. Can we respond to these public comments? I don't know. And that's where I was coming from, because I felt the same way, actually. And I felt like I wanted to know if there was another alternative that I kind of anticipated we were going to hear from communities about. And so that's what I was proposing. So I would be in favor. We could have had something to look at right now, but we don't. But I would be in favor of I think what I'm not suggesting that we keep going around in a circular argument. I think that what we would be doing is looking at 3 options, and we may end up right back where we started. But at least we'd know, and the public would know that we had been open, we listened to their concerns, and we tried to see if we could incorporate some of those concerns into this map. And then I just want to, I know maybe I shouldn't do this, but our first priority, our highest priority is creating districts of equal population. And when you have high deviations, you're not doing that. And there's a good reason why we have to do that. It's because of one person, one vote. And you can't, I mean, I actually think I would rather have a much lower deviation. And I think that would have been my highest priority, because in fact, it's the statutory priority.
Thank you, Commissioner Dostal.
Thank you. I also really appreciate the public comments. I would respectfully disagree that if we move forward with this map, we haven't considered those comments. A lot of what we heard tonight was what we've heard before and considered in prior maps. And actually in the beginning, and I understand, people have full-time jobs and they came here and they're here late, and I really appreciate the commitment of the public. And I didn't mean to imply by we're on a timeline that, we're too busy to consider anything further. So with respect to Commissioner Hansen's comment that no one was happy with our map, I respectfully disagree. No one who showed up and commented tonight, and it wasn't no one, but most of the people who commented tonight were not happy. And that's why they came and commented, and that's their right, and they should do that. And we did listen to it. However, we had months of comments, that led us here. So I'm agreeing with what Commissioner Inman said. I do think we should move forward with the current map. It's been vetted. We considered the East County residents who wanted El Cajon. That's been considered. That's been, we've been told that from the beginning. We considered it. We heard comments that we should have done more of the Pannon map. We did consider the Pannon map again. We couldn't do everything that was in there. So I think we should move forward with the map as indicated by Inman and others. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chen.
Yeah, I'd like to revisit bringing Carlsbad back to North County, District 5. I'm kidding, of course. I'm not going to bring that back up again. Ken's staring at me. But I wonder if there was a change that would not cause problems for anyone, and that's the Borrego Springs change, putting that into District 5. I don't know there's anyone that would argue against that. I would bring our deviations up a little bit. In my view, as long as we're below 10%, I think the deviations are okay. So if there are any, what you might even call no-brainers, any non-controversial changes we could make, if that qualifies, I'd like us to think about that if possible. And process, possibility is, if I've been hearing our conversations correctly, if we had the current map, we made a map with Commissioner Garcia's changes and a map with Commissioner Russ's changes, we would have 3 maps. We could then do a voting process and say, one of those 3 maps will be our final map. So we don't get into an endless cycle. We could have Commissioner Serban saying we should have map 15 also and have 4 maps. But if we had a finite selection of maps that we then voted on, and narrowed down to 1 map then based on those 3 or 4 maps, it seems to me that would get us through the process in a relatively timely manner, and would say that we then really did consider all the inputs that we had received.
Thank you. Commissioner Larson.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope I can be one of the last speakers. Let me say what I'm thinking. I'm coming at this as a professional engineer and a longtime project manager. The group of us here have to face some realities. We're running out of time. We really got to come up with an answer. Chairman Bain has mentioned often that he sees what we're doing as solving a puzzle. I agree with him, but it's a very different puzzle. There's several solutions. There's no right answer. Yes, we have to have balanced populations. Yes, we can't split cities. We have to consider the COIs. However, we also have to consider the time. We have a product that we got to get out in the street here in another week. And we really got to get something done, and we should be doing it right now. And then finally, the legal constraints that we've heard about on end here, including the posting requirements. But we got to make sure the whatever product we have has been properly reviewed, isn't going to be subject to being fought in court by the fact that we just sped through this at the very end without taking into consideration what our paid experts have been telling us. So what I'm saying is let's face the facts. We gotta come up with a vote and get things settled. We're never gonna make everybody happy, but what we're learning is how to do it the right way. So the next generation of commissioners in 10 years can perhaps do it better. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to take Commissioner Russ next because he hasn't had the floor yet. Please.
I don't think it's true that nobody was happy with our map. The unhappiness was with District 4 and surrounding environs there. There's a lot of happiness up in District 5. I didn't hear any unhappiness about District 1, except there's some, like I say, perimeter type issues that I think Commissioner Garcia was trying to solve. I was really surprised that people didn't pick up on what she was trying to solve in her proposal as far as reuniting the black BIPOC. But really, it all circled around District 4, and I for one do not want to take the last people who spoke, give them more weight. Plus, I fully realize that everybody was self-selected. I understand that, but I think we need to use our own judgment too. I've lived in the county off and on. Of course, in the Navy, I was mainly gone, but for about 60 years. And I started in Spring Valley, and then I went to East San Diego, and then I came back and I went to Alpine. And then I went to La Mesa, and then I went back to the college area, and now I'm up in Poway. So I know the county, and it has changed. It's changed a lot. But El Cajon is the gateway to East County. I've lived in East County. I go down to El Cajon quite a bit. I would like to see. I really wish that we could have had Flo, maybe do the map that Commissioner Garcia had proffered and the map that I had proffered, and maybe even combine them too. I'm kind of, from my calculations, and I'm not the expert like Flo is, but I don't think we're going to really hurt our deviation much, at least by what I've proffered here. I think a big problem too, we said, well, we always, we've looked at Elkhorn. No, we haven't. No, we haven't. We took the PANA map, and I think this is a mistake we made several months ago, where we took the PANA map and we said, oh, the PANA map is now set, and we're going to do all these other things. We did a lot of maps with the PANA map. I know we don't want to call it the PANA anymore, but with that district, now the District 4, that was set in stone, and everything else had to move around it. We have not really, I don't feel, really looked at moving El Cajon into East County. And I think that, at least the numbers that I've seen, I think that we can make it work. Now, we're not going to be able to solve it to satisfy everybody. And I don't know how we're going to be able to satisfy Commissioner Hanson on Claremont. Unless now you go up to maybe Mira Mesa. But I don't think that we have to relitigate the entire map anymore. I think we've really are getting down to the fine strokes, and I think we could do it probably in another evolution, and hopefully have it done. We can have it done by Saturday. I would hope that we could, and I think we can. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Serban, I'm going to beg your indulgence because you already had the floor, because there are a couple things I want to do to flesh out the discussion. First of all, a comment I've been holding back making, but I do want to make it. There's been a lot of discussion about how we took something at face value, didn't think it through, used it too much and put it over other things. I can't speak for every commissioner, but I certainly think in my mind, I looked at these things very carefully and reconsidered them several times and came back to the same conclusion. I also think it is a debatable topic about what constituted sufficient attention by the entire commission. But I'd be very careful assuming knowledge of other commissioners' thought processes and evaluations. That's an individual commissioner's decision. What I do think is perfectly appropriate is whether the commission as a whole, even today, has looked at issues sufficiently. The reason I say that is in tracking just informally what commissioners were saying, I really only heard 4 commissioners say firmly they wanted to move on or had very grave doubts about where we could go, perhaps 5, depending on exactly how you define it. But I've heard at least 7 and arguably 9 say we need to at least consider some alternatives. So what I'd like to do now is first, I know John had his hand up from Flow Analytics. John, are you still there? I don't even see you on my gallery.
I am here.
John, could you tell us what you thought of this discussion? Or any relevant comments for you, particularly with regard to timelines and fleshing and actually producing products?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll just, well, it's almost 4 a.m. here, so I'll be blunt. The timeline's hard, right? It's tough, and the closer we get to the deadline, the tougher it gets. And it is a concern of mine to be rushing these maps as we get to the end, just generally from doing this work and trying to do it right. That's a concern. I'm not saying we can't do it, but it's a concern. It's just, that's how it is. That's just human error is more likely to happen when we're trying to do it under these, really tight timelines. So I just want to put that out there. The other thing I would like to say is one thing that could potentially help this discussion, if it would be helpful, is going back to the web viewer, opening that up and doing a general discussion that we can sort of walk around the map. If we have specific communities that are in mind, we can probably, pretty well flesh out with some population exchanges and test out some of the things that may be on people's minds. I don't know if that's going to get us to a map or anything like that, but if it's helpful, I want to offer it. And we are prepared to do that. So if that's something the commission would find helpful, we're happy to do that.
Thank you. Marguerite, I'm about to call on you, but Commissioner Sherbin was asking urgently for the floor. Commissioner, is it better for you to speak now and then we'll turn to Marguerite?
I guess I had asked earlier, and I wonder if, I just wanted to see if John had made any progress on this. And I'm sorry, John, if you hadn't, if I wasn't clear about the question. The question was the alternatives that I think someone was writing them down earlier, those alternatives, the one scenario by Commissioner Garcia and the other by Commissioner Russ. I'd asked, are there prior maps that we've considered that are either similar or identical to those scenarios? And the reason why I'm asking is, what I'm hearing is that there are some commissioners who appear to have an interest in ensuring that we've conducted our due diligence by considering all options, particularly those that could be responsive to recent public comment. And so I'd like to know, do we truly not know about these options, or have we already considered these scenarios in the past by looking at public submitted maps that might be similar to these scenarios?
Oh, that's
I mean, I'm looking at
public
map 12. I'm looking at public map 12 and it looks like what that is.
Let's let John or Alex answer, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's, it gets a bit subjective at that point, honestly, to say, because none of these there's just so many different blocks out there. They're all, it's just tough to compare. I would have trouble answering that, I think.
Okay.
I mean, doesn't public map 12 accomplish taking El Cajon and putting it into East County?
Commissioner Sherbin.
We talked about this already.
We may bring it up. I'm certain we're not going to resolve tonight at this hour. And I am very, very aware, reading facial expressions, of how commissioners are feeling. And I want to be very careful we don't continue too long if it's when we're looking at other options. Co-Vice Chair Katerina, I'm continuing to look at the interest and think it through. I want to get on to ask council for some thoughts, but please, if you've got something to add.
I like the idea of having to test something quickly if it's doable. And, but I would like to hear from council first, of course.
Marguerite.
Hello. Couple of legal things on the deviation. There's some old case law that have had deviations up around 16%. And there were some justifications. I don't see in the case of San Diego a rationale that would justify a deviation over 10%. First of all, that's a huge number of people. And it would put this commission at great risk. Your deviation is 6%, not illegal by any stretch of the imagination, but it carries with it a presumption of constitutionality. You go over 10% and you lose a presumption, and you're going to have to defend that deviation in court. So I strongly recommend against it, and I actually do not see a rationale for doing it. The deadline is December 15. Interestingly enough, there's not a publication deadline in the law applicable to you. But for other counties at this point in the process, it's 3 days. So if you're considering looking at some alternatives within bounds that are manageable by John, I would recommend you do that on Saturday. I think it's be asking a lot for flow for tomorrow, given the hour that they're at. And also we do not have demographic capabilities tomorrow evening. Flo doesn't have the personnel that would be, and we also need staff to get a meeting time ready. So I think Saturday would be timely and potentially Sunday. But I would think you want to act within that time frame. Anything else I should be addressing, Chair?
No, not at this point. And again, I really do want to move to a point of rapid progress. My sense of the commission is that the commission is not well prepared to have a vote tonight. I think they understand the risk involved of considering other alternatives. But as Marguerite just said, the timeline is such, if commissioners are available, that we can still take up the map before us tonight and still meet the deadline. I would note that Co-Vice Chair Garcia in particular has been sufficiently active on the final report that is in reasonably good shape. And I mean that sincerely because that's another legal requirement. So I do very much agree we need to give Flo time to do something and do it right. John, and I'm sure Alex would agree, I think your idea of the web viewer approach is useful because it gives you a greater live understanding of where things stand of testing things out. And maybe having a better chance to zoom in on one option rather than three, which presumably would at least cope with the possibility of human error. John, I take it, and Alex, would you confirm that if you had a good web viewer experience with the commissioners, say on Saturday, and we got down to one option, that could be analyzed a little more easily than three? Am I correct?
Certainly one, yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay, nope, that's good for tonight. The reason being, commissioners, that if we're going to meet again along those lines on Saturday and or Sunday, it's going to have to be in that way. And I really do think it's going to have to come out with a fairly firm map, which will require exactly the right accompanying attitude across the board. I won't use the word compromise because I don't think that's what's going on here. I think it's doing the best job we can. All right. With that in mind, yes, please, Commissioner.
To clarify what you just said, please. So you're saying a web viewer option on Saturday. And
That's what I
so
was about to ask, yeah.
Oh,
keep going.
Well, and so Flo's directive would be to take Commissioner Russ, Commissioner Garcia's directives, prepare them as a digital storyboard that they would walk us through on Saturday. We would not get PDFs. Or are you asking for summary statistics and the full report? Because I'm just wondering exactly what, you know.
The point is extremely well taken. And I was getting to it in my roundabout way, but you did it much more directly, which is welcome at this hour. The point is, commissioners, what do you need when we get together to make a decision? My assumption was that if we had the current final working draft map, the detailed option proposed by Co-Vice Chair Garcia, and the detailed option proposed by Commissioner Russ, you could see yourself voting for one of those three. The reason being that I'm comfortable saying all those three fit under agenda item 8. They are all working from the final working draft map. I'm not sure that would apply easily, and we're going to be in a continued session, so the agenda still applies. I'm not sure that it will apply easily to some of the other ideas. And if, as Commissioner Serban, I think one or two other people said, if you wanted to go to another map, it would frankly be on you to bring those relevant details to one of those three options. That's how I'm proceeding on this, because I don't think Flo will legitimately have time. I'll take comment on this in a second, but I'm also looking at the will of the commission rather than what every single commissioner wants. So I'm going to ask what availability is like on Saturday, because I think we need the extra day, but I think Commissioner Serban wants the floor, and I want to see if anybody has any comment on what I just said before we consider scheduling the meeting. Commissioner Serban.
Thank you, Chair Beam. So my previous comments, I wanted to restrict a process. And so now it sounds like we've decided on a process moving forward, which is we're going to direct flow to explore these scenarios. So I just want to, I guess, are these the scenario? Are we in agreement that these are the scenarios that we are directing flow with? Do we need to have a discussion as to which scenarios we want to give them?
I was saying that because that's what I felt I heard commissioners saying, that one of those three would be what they supported. But as Commissioner Pons said earlier, I'm reluctant to cut off this conversation if some commissioner has another proposal that would fit under this agenda item. And I've already got three other commissioners wanting to speak.
So,
please.
Previously, I had heard that there was a scenario by Commissioner Garcia, one by Commissioner Russ. I had proposed a third scenario that's based on a prior public submitted map. If I need to articulate that scenario relative to map 13B11, I can do so, if that's how it needs to be done in order for us to consider that scenario for inclusion in as another flow directive. Do I need to do that?
No.
My concern, Commissioner Serban, is realistically, the more maps we're considering on Saturday, the more complicated and lengthy the discussion, and the more it runs into the problem that I think John and several commissioners cited, that we're that much farther from a firm decision and we're taking a risk on the technical side. Now, that said, I'm also assuming that those who wanted to move forward were ready to move forward and had what they needed in the final working draft map. If that's not true, I need to hear that, but I need to hear very firmly what the issue is, because the agenda item is to work from that map. Okay.
Okay, so are you saying that I need to articulate what I'd like to see in relation to?
No, I'm
13B11?
saying I would need to know, and I'll go through the other commissioners before I come back, but this is true for all commissioners. If there's something you want other than consideration of the proposals from Commissioners Russ and Garcia, I need to know it in terms of the final working draft map, not in terms of working from another map and trying to import it. It needs to be starting from this map, and it really should be done asking yourself what needs to change on this map, because I'm taking commissioners at their word. Those who said we need to move on would prefer to just stick with this map as is. And to me, that means there's no reason for a further alternative. Maybe I misunderstood something, and if I did, I apologize. Well, Commissioner Diaz, then Commissioner Russ, then Commissioner Dustall,
I'd like to offer
then Commissioner Brown, and now Commissioner Pons. Commissioner, it is 12:54. I'm really trying to do my best, and I promised you I would come back. I mean it. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Diaz.
Yeah, I'm not in 100% agreement with the version that Commissioner Garcia proposed. So, and I'm just only concerned with a piece of it. And I would like to have complete data. And if that's not possible, why are we making this faster than what it needs to be? I mean, if we, let's really make sure we have all the information in front of us. By moving forward with this, it doesn't mean I'm supporting all of what Commissioner Garcia is proposing. I'm only one piece.
I understand. Yeah. And Commissioner Diaz, I understand you to be someone who is willing to take the final working draft map, maybe even vote for it if the other alternatives don't work out. So what I'm trying to sketch out is it worth the time, say on Saturday, to hear those other options, given the public comment we heard? That for me is the change factor in this, and how commissioners reacted to that. It is not a unitary consensus reaction. I understand that, but I do think it's worth exploring tonight whether we want to explore those options with Commissioner Diaz, the understanding that if we get down to one map, whatever it may be, after that discussion on Saturday, it may be subject to an amendment or two. It may be subject to some further analysis. I would be hopeful, but I'm not sure, for instance, that we will have the analyses from Dr. Gross and Mr. Adelson that we will need to make a decision in time for Saturday. But we may be able to make enough progress. And again, I'll follow the commissioner's will on this if we can discern it, to at least have enough of it to have a discussion. Let me move on to the other commissioners because it is really late and I'd really like to wrap up this portion of the meeting so that we can figure out what we're doing next. Commissioner Russ.
Chair Boehm, I think you articulated it very accurately. We don't need to go back to public submitted map 15. We've looked at it. We don't need to go back to map 14. We have a map. There are some tweaks that need to be done. We need to work on this map. I think you articulated it correctly, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Dostal.
Yeah, I wanted to move forward with this map tonight. I don't want to start getting into a lot of different maps again. We just don't have time to get all the analysis we need to consider more maps.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown.
Okay, I would like to tweak a little bit tonight, what they've already put in there for adding Borrego Springs. This is all going into District 5. It would be Borrego Springs and trying Harmony Grove. As I see it, I think that's only going to bring the deviation from 3.8 up to 4.58. So it may not affect everything completely. I think that's one of those that we could put it in there, and if it's going to cause a problem with the deviation, then bring it back to where it was before. There was mention also of Wahida Ranch being a part of Valley Center, and it is a part, but I don't think there's any population out there at all. So we may be able to just have them include that in the line for District 5 without having to worry at all about any population. So I'm going to suggest those things.
Thank you, Commissioner Pons.
Yes, I agree with your comments, Chair Boehm and Commissioner Russ's comments regarding using the existing draft map as the starting point for making any adjustments. I would like to make a proposal that for a third alternative proposal that we consider moving Spring Valley, Paradise Hill, and Rancho San Diego into District 4 and moving El Cajon into District 2 and see what that does. And they can do that using the web viewer and give us statistics on Saturday. That would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Chen.
I echo Commissioner Brown's comments about Harmony Grove and Borrego Springs. Other than that, I'm hopeful that if we do follow this process, we have a finite set of maps that we will then choose from. So we will not go into an endless set of discussions, and that we will actually be closer to a final decision, where that's it. We have those maps, we vote, and we're done.
I have not changed on that position since we opened the mapping process. Thank you, Commissioner. Co-Vice Chair Garcia.
Yes, quickly agree about the Borrego Springs. If the speaker was correct, he said it would only change the deviation by 0.2%. And with regards to Harmony Grove, I heard what the speaker said tonight, but we also heard from the community planning group people that they wanted Elfin Forest, Harmony Grove, and so forth together. So I'm less convinced that we need to split those folks up. And then just to Commissioner Diaz's comment, my map was just meant to present another alternative that made different choices, and you would be able to decide then if the current map unrevised is actually, if the choices that were made there are preferable to you than the ones that are in my map. So I fully, that's the way I was expecting this to work out. Thanks.
Commissioner Inman.
So the one change, but I was assuming it would be a minor change that would be made when we looked at the boundaries, but the Valley fire district would be inconsequential relative to population. I think that was mentioned. And so we do need to make that Valley Center, I believe it was, fire district whole. And I don't think the population is very much at all for that change. So that would be one that I would offer.
And commissioners, just so you know, I did ask staff to talk to that speaker and make sure we had the details. So those will be available to you as soon as we decide what you will need to use them for. All right, I want to return, before we start really wrapping up, I do want to be completely fair, because Commissioner Dustall, and I think some indications from other commissioners, do you want to go through asking for a motion for a vote tonight? Because that was clearly a possibility anticipated, and I don't want to rule that out without asking. And Commissioner Dustall in particular, I wasn't quite sure how far you were going in your statement. I'm asking right now, the commissioners, I think there were 4 particularly firm ones who wanted to go forward tonight. Did any of them want to make a motion tonight, and do they see it worthwhile? Commissioner Inman.
Just a question about what that means. If it fails, does then a subsequent motion to reconsider have to be taken? I don't understand the implications.
Right. It almost,
because I don't know.
No, it's a good question,
Right
and it
now.
almost certainly would.
Yeah.
But I could see that being a relative. I'm sorry, Marguerite, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know what this motion is, but if you vote on V11 and it fails, it's a complication that we have to work through.
The real problem, I think, would be, it would be hard to work from a map that had been voted down.
Right.
If we had a Saturday session. Now, we can find another way to do it, but I'm sure then there are certain commissioners who would want to open the door to considering other maps. And under that possibility, I think it would be completely appropriate, but that's not the agenda item before us right now. Commissioner Larson, did you want to say something? Okay. So again, I'm just looking, because if there's not a motion, I'm going to be asking for availability starting with Saturday. Commissioner Serban? The Turners, yes. So staff, could we bring that up again, please? I'm sorry, Commissioner Serban was asking if we could look at the wording from the 2 proposals by Co-Vice Chair Garcia and Commissioner Russ.
Do we now need to include Commissioner Pond's proposal?
I think we have to, again, and I was going to come back. Yeah, but no, it's I'm glad you raised it now. I would then want to see if there are any other possibilities here. Commissioner Pons, I did, and Commissioner Diaz, I'll get to you in one moment. Commissioner Pons, I did want to ask you, do you want yours as a separate exercise, or do you want to see if they can just do it as part of what they're doing, working on Commissioner Garcia?
Separate, please.
Good, thank you. Could you make sure you've got the wording ready? I'm going to turn to Commissioner Diaz for her comment, and then I'll ask you to read it into the screen. Commissioner Diaz?
Yes, I would like to explore what Commissioner Pons is proposing, but without El Cajon going to District 2.
Okay, so let me ask Commissioner Pons first. Can you read it so that we can type it onto the screen?
Yeah, let me just answer Commissioner Diaz's point. I looked at the over and under for the populations, and the population for Spring Valley, Paradise Hill, and Rancho San Diego is approximately 123,000 citizens. The El Cajon population, if I'm correct, based on the data that we got, is 105,585 citizens. So based on the over and under of the populations, that would almost be a wash, and I don't think would move the needle as far as the deviation is concerned. So my proposal would be to move Spring Valley, Paradise Hill, and Rancho San Diego to District 4. The second move would be to move El Cajon.
Hold on one moment, please. Hold on one moment, please.
Okay.
Go ahead.
District 4.
District 4, right?
Yeah. and to move El Cajon to District 2. So it's pretty much swapping those from District 4 to 2 and from 2 to 4 and 4 to 2.
Commissioner Sherbin.
Thank you, Chair Bame. So I'd like to direct the commission's attention to the alternative scenario presented by Commissioner Russ and ask if, and particularly Commissioner Russ, is this the scenario you're contemplating? Is it similar to public submitted map 12? Because in looking at the publicly submitted map 12, this looks like what you're envisioning.
Commissioner Russ, you're muted.
It's been a while since I've looked at 12. I don't know. I don't know how to answer you.
Or maybe if Flo could bring it up.
Well,
I can look it up.
I don't mind.
Well, I'd rather leave that up to Commissioner Russ because it's there. Commissioner Sherbin, is there inherent in that something you're thinking?
The question is, have we already looked at this map? Have we already looked at this scenario? Because I'm looking at this at the way the scenario is described under Commissioner Russ's suggestion.
All right.
And I see this map and I'm thinking this is already
okay.
been
But in
presented
that
to us.
case, I assume you would agree some of the other proposals here, particularly Co-Vice Chair Garcia's proposal, we've not looked at in previous maps in that kind of combination.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't looked.
Okay. Therefore, because I think most of the commission is interested in looking at this, I'd ask you to reserve that comment for when we come back and look at these things, if that's okay.
Are we looking at them now?
I'm sorry?
Aren't we looking at them now? Aren't we deciding?
No,
on
I'm
whether-
saying how Commissioner Russ's relates to map 12 is something that presumably we could take a quick look at rather than finding it, and commissioners themselves could look at it and we could have a shorter discussion.
Sure. I mean, but right now we're deciding which of these we're going to give to Flo to.
As far as I'm concerned right now, we're probably going to give all of them to Flo. That's why I'm seeking to minimize the number we give to Flo.
Yeah, so
Okay.
am I.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Commissioner Russ's map moves San Carlos and that publicly submitted map does not.
Oh, good.
Thank you. Okay. So with that, we
Commissioner
have,
Dame,
sorry, Commissioner Chen.
is it correct that for all of these maps, we're also going to move the fire district and Borrego?
Yeah.
I understand Harmony Grove had some conflict. Is there any conflict around Borrego, or is that an absolute uncontentious piece?
I have no problem with that.
I don't want to say no brainer, but it seems to me there's no contention about Borrego. There may be with Harmony Grove, so I'm not going to propose that. But Borrego and the fire district, it seemed there was no contention around those two suggestions.
If I'm just to respond, I think the more meaty issue, if you will, are these motions here. The things you're suggesting are kind of around the edges, marginal. And so I believe that if Flo does these, then they can come back and we can decide whether we want to move forward. You can make changes around the margin, and when they come back would be what I would
That's
suggest.
fine. I was thinking if we had all
Yeah.
three of these motions, we may just have completely done maps, and we just choose from one of these three
No.
maps and we're done.
You anticipated what I was going to bring later on this and a few other things that might be out there. Because again, there'll have to be some sort of quick scrubbing of whatever's really looked at in depth or whatever the commissioner's gravitating to, et cetera. Commissioner Diaz.
I'm just concerned what the implications would be for this, because I do not like all three of them as written. I only like aspects of certain ones, but
Commissioner Diaz, it's a very fair point. Would it be acceptable to move forward with this with the understanding that when we discuss them, we can look at alternatives within them, because they'll be before us and we'll be able to consider it alongside whatever flows and also some preparation could be.
I almost think we discussed a lot of these. That's why I'm not sure. I mean, I'm leaning more towards moving towards approving the map. as we have it right now.
Okay,
I-
let me give commissioners a chance to think about that. And Alex, did you want to say something?
No, no, thank you.
Okay, very good.
And remember, dude, I was the guy who was saying we should fucking blow past.
We
the
understand
deadline.
why Alex
Remember
earns the
that?
big bucks now, yeah. Commissioner Serban, your hand's up?
Oh, is it?
Yep, that's okay.
Well, I guess I was just remarking that, originally 2 or 3 months ago, I was the guy who was advocating on taking as much time as we wanted, because I am absolutely committed to a transparent and open process. And I said, you know what, 12:15, cool, but if we don't, but what's more important to me is is upholding our commitment to the public and having them engaged and all of that. Here we are. And even though I'm that guy, I am now okay with where we are and with meeting the deadline of the 15th. I am standing with Commissioner Inman and the rest of my commissioners in thinking that we have sufficiently performed our duties, and I'm happy with where we are. I am ready to move forward with this map. I think we've asked and answered the questions that we needed to.
By my clock, that occurred at 1:13 a.m. on Friday, December 10th. All right, Commissioner Dostal.
I agree. I think we should move forward with this map. I think these are all things we considered, and back to Commissioner Inman's comments, we're going in circles. I think we looked at all these things before. That's all.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'm going to take it that the will of the commission is to have another meeting. I do not think a meeting on Friday will work for a number of reasons. I do think a meeting on Saturday could work, and I'm inclined to go for a meeting on Saturday. And can we take the motions down again for a moment? Because I need to be able to see all the commissioners at once. I do think we need that extra day if at all possible. Could I see a show of hands of commissioners who could not be available on Saturday? Commissioners Serban and Chen and Katerina.
Are you talking about morning? Are you talking Saturday morning?
And if the timing made a difference, I would want to know that.
Yeah.
Be available between 12 and 4 on Saturday.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Chen, 12 and 4?
Yeah, I am available between 12 and 4.
Okay.
And I am available, depending on how my son does his soccer tournament, afternoon possibly.
Afternoon possibly.
I'm available in the morning till about 3:30 or something like that.
And I'm available in the morning, probably till noon.
Chair, do we know if Flo is available on the weekend?
Alex, John?
I know I can't speak for John, but I am available on Saturday.
Just tomorrow,
I don't know yet. And it's awfully late. I'm not waking up my wife.
John's still trying to figure out when he's going to sleep on Friday. So, okay, John, we won't hold you to it because we can, I honestly think as long as we have one person from Flo there, we can accomplish a good bit. Commissioner Krugliak? You're muted.
I just want to make sure we're confident Saturday's the right call and that a straw poll wouldn't tell us to finish tonight.
I'm sorry, straw poll what?
Would not tell us to finish tonight. Along the lines of what Commissioner Dostal and Commissioner Diaz and Commissioner Inman have said.
Okay, so you're asking if we can take a straw poll to see if there's sufficient support to take a vote tonight. Correct? Okay, let's do that. Could I see a show of hands of commissioners who would like to work expeditiously towards a vote tonight? I have 5 commissioners. I have Commissioner Inman, Commissioner Larson, Commissioner Serban, Commissioner Krugliak, Commissioner Diaz. Am I missing someone? Commissioner Dostal, sorry, 6.
All right,
Okay,
thanks.
thank you. No, it's good. But I would like to wrap up. Okay, so more commissioners are available in at least part of the afternoon. 2 commissioners are not available in the morning. So we could do either one. But there's some flexibility built in here. We do seem to have 11 commissioners available all day. Commissioner Brown?
Do we need to have the RPV experts available?
We will
to-
see what we can do. I cannot guarantee they will be there. We will check.
But we can go ahead
Commissioner
without
Boehm,
them.
is Chair Boehm, is Sunday an option?
Sunday would be an option, but for me, the extra day, especially in gaining the possibility of the public viewing something and knowing that we have 11 commissioners available, or at least 10 commissioners available all day. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean we could cut it, if we needed to, cut short on Saturday, especially to get more analyses, and meet briefly on Sunday if we need to. I just want to keep as many options open as possible. All right. Commissioners, could we aim to meet? All right, commissioners, I'm going to play the card. Saturday is not how I anticipated celebrating my birthday, as much as I love you all. But I'm going to ask staff to get something decent that can be shipped around. Carvel ice cream cards, if there's a Carvel around here. Anyway, I'd like to start at 9 or 10. Any thoughts? 9?
10.
9's good. 9's good.
10. Let me see your show of hands for 10, please.
That's good.
That seems to be the most. Okay, 10 o'clock Saturday, virtual special meeting. Marguerite, I really am that tired. Do we need to do anything other than having announced it here? Are we all right working with regard to the timeline?
Yeah, no, we're fine. And we are going to probably, with regard to the timeline, talk this through on the staff level. And we may publish a special meeting simultaneously with a broader agenda item than 8. So that if you decide to move, even just do something as simple as move Borrego Springs, you can adopt that map. So we're going to do a few procedural things so you can try to get done on Saturday.
Okay,
But
so not to extend.
You'll be hearing
Sorry.
from staff.
Right. So the officer, staff, and I will work hard on this. Commissioner Hanson, I've been very careful not to take up time for a dialogue with you, but I will say, I promise you, we will not make any decisions. We will try to capture the spirit of this conversation and make sure it's done fairly and equitably for the commission. You have my word. Commissioners, to be clear about that, what we have right now are the 3 ideas, proposals, concepts, call them what you will, the 3 items on the piece on the screen that you saw from Co-Vice Chair Garcia, Commissioner Russ, and Commissioner Pons. In addition, I hope you won't mind if I ask Flo to look into some other presentational possibilities should they be needed. For instance, what would be the effect of simply moving El Cajon from one district to another? I think that might be useful, but I want to just have it on call. I want that to be clearly transparent. And if you have ideas on that that would help with the discussion, please send them to staff.
I
And
mean,
we'll
El
see what we
Cajon
can
or
do.
Borrego? You can't just move El Cajon.
No, that's exactly what I mean. I think the commission has a consensus. You can't just move El Cajon. Seeing as a reminder or capture of our past discussions, exactly what the problems are with that, I think might be instructive, and maybe 1 or 2 more things. But that's also my way of making sure John doesn't sleep between now and Saturday at 10 a.m. our time. With that, I'm Alex, please.
Can I ask one clarifying question?
Of course, your role is critical in this.
If it's okay with county staff, if we could bring up the if we call them motions, I just want to look over Commissioner Pons's one more time and perhaps just clarify something.
Please.
because that one went a little quick at the end here. So I understand movement of El Cajon, move El Cajon, but then the first part, Spring Valley, Paradise Hills, and Rancho San Diego. There is one more census designated place called Casa de Oro Mount Helix that's adjacent to La Mesa's east, and it's on the west side of Rancho San Diego. I just want to make sure that that is included. Obviously, it basically needs to, because otherwise it would make that area discontiguous. Just want to clarify that. I can bring up
Add it if it meets the criteria of contiguity, please.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure. I think it had to be there. Just it wasn't in writing, so wanted to check.
That's fine. Thank you.
Marguerite, I am hearing that in order to recess to Saturday at 10, we would need to stay with our past practice of a vote. I'm sorry, please. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was captured.
No,
So Commissioner Ponce or
wanted to ask.
Alex? Marguerite, can you hold for one moment?
Oh, sure.
Alex, can we get the language that you needed or wanted in here?
Yes,
Commissioner
in the
Ponce?
first line, it could just be added after Paradise Hills, and it would be Casa de Oro. And then its technical name is Mount Helix.
Mount Helix.
Yep.
You different places.
Okay.
Yep.
Commissioner Ponce, that's okay with you, correct?
Yes.
Very good. Okay. All right, Marguerite, please.
I was wondering if Commissioner Inman's comment about Valley Center a fire district got into the instructions.
I think for that and for Borrego Springs, we're going to treat that as more of an adjustment that we don't need on this tasking.
Okay, all righty.
Okay, but Alex, that's understood, right?
Yep, we have it noted. We'll have stats on that. Yes.
Right, and we'll get staff to send you the details on the Valley Center piece.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Marguerite, do we need a vote to recess to Saturday at 10?
Yeah, we need a vote to
That's what I
adjourn.
thought. Okay.
Time certain Saturday at 10.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn till Saturday at 10?
So moved.
Commissioner Chen, second from Commissioner Hanson. Thank you. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Boehm. Commissioner Serban,
Nay.
Commissioner Russ,
Aye.
Co-Vice Chair Katerina,
Aye.
Commissioner Larson,
Aye.
Co-Vice Chair Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Chen,
Aye.
Commissioner Hanson,
Aye.
Chair Boehm,
Aye.
Commissioner Dostal.
Aye.
Commissioner Dostal? Okay.
Aye.
Commissioner Diaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Inman,
Aye.
Commissioner Krugliak,
Aye.
Commissioner Pons.
Aye.
Chair Boehm with Commissioner Serban voting no, all other commissioners being present voting aye, that motion passes.
Very good. Commissioners, we'll be getting papers and agendas out as soon as we can. Otherwise, we will see you virtually at 10 o'clock. We move on to adjournment. Thank you again for your time. The website remains active. Please feel free to visit DroidCommunity.com. And with that, we are adjourned at 1:25 a.m. on the 10th. Thank you very much and see you Saturday morning.
Drive safe, everyone.